Hey everybody, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I'm finally doing another grid paper flip through, and look how bright these colors are, you can already tell. These papers are from our summer grid paper collection. As you can see, they're very bright and very bold, and because of that, people are very intimidated by them. So I'm hoping today's video will be very helpful and inspire ideas. I will say before we get started, there are some dies that are likely, although they might be available. Each month we come out with a different set of dies, and then they're only available pretty much during that month. So go to our cutting edge news page on snapandcraft.com if you want to see what our current dies are. But today I'm really showing these pages to really give you color ideas and theme ideas. And of course the dies are inspiring, but I'm mostly going to focus on the colors and the themes that you can add on these really bright colors. So I have each section actually starting with the actual grid paper color. So this color is Bikini. As you can tell, it's a very bright pink. And so 3 of the papers in the summer collection are kind of one color with a gradient. So you can see it's kind of lighter in the middle, and then there's kind of this distressing over here that you can see. So it's not a flat pink. It has a variation. And so we have a pink, a green, and a blue that are like this. And then we have 3 other colors that have multiple colors in them, and we're going to see those at the end. So this is a very, very hot pink, and we're going to see how we use them. So this is the first one you saw at the beginning. This is the Flamingo Hotel in Las Vegas. So this bright pink was perfect. And when you're using these colors, you got to think of bright, bold, fun. So that's what you want. You're trying to put a fun mood on these layouts. So you want to get out your photos that you think could use some brightening up, or you want to portray as really fun. So photos from a place like Las Vegas is going to look fantastic on these colors, because guess what? You're going to Las Vegas to have fun. So of course I think these colors are fitting. And here, this page was made by Tammy. It is mostly photos. It's a pretty simple layout. And I love this. She put in the flamingo sign here. There's this little statue, and you actually see some real flamingos over here. So of course the color pink is great for this theme. For this layout, she actually used a blue that was a little grayed down. So this could be great if you're feeling like a bright blue or even a really dark navy blue is just too much. And she also put white in here as well. White is a great color for any of these bright pages, or really I should say white is a great color when you're using a bright background. Black can be good as well. It keeps things from being too busy. Something to keep in mind is having some white around when you're using these bright colors to tone everything down. But really, Tammy chose a type of blue that's really toned down, but you can still see it over the pink. And I guess in this case, this is her husband, Kevin, and it probably gives it a little more of a masculine feel. Maybe if it was a group of women, maybe you want to go with a brighter blue, or teal blue can look pretty on the pink as well. But this is one fun one. Again, something like a fun vacation spot could be great with the summer collection. This layout was made by junior designer Caitlin. So this is a really fun layout. If you want to know, these dies are our Gable dies. They're amazing. They're a level 3 die. And she used this bright yellow. So of course you can use bright cardstock over these, and I do recommend having another color or some photos that can kind of tone it down. But here the Gable dies are very, very thin, so I think the bright yellow was perfectly fine, since really they're kind of more of an accent in a way. And then she has this blue, which is a nice cool color that tones it down. But one fun idea, this is obviously a summer layout at a water park. And water parks are obviously going to be great on the summer grid papers, because it's a bright and fun, and obviously summer is a bright and fun season. But something that's really fun here is Caitlin has these really close-up photos of these. I think they're hibiscus flowers. I could be wrong about that. Let me know if you know the name of these flowers, but I really like how they're so close up that they show a wonderful texture, and that's something you can add to your layouts. We don't do this all the time, but I think it's more fun than pattern paper, and it's so fitting with that pink paper as well. They're such pretty tropical colors. And she actually used the color inspiration from the sign. This is one of the rides at the water park. And so you can see there's the pink and yellow and blue. And so that's where she got her color inspiration from. And so sometimes using something like a sign is a great way to choose your colors. All right, this one is by designer Lauren. And of course, Bikini is going to be a great color for feminine pages. So obviously you can probably read the top here and notice that this is about a first haircut, and Lauren's showing her daughter's long hair and getting it cut for the first time. I know many of you probably have this memory. And she put in this really fun striped paper. It kind of reminds me of a unicorn. It's very girly. And then she has this dark purple cardstock for the mats. I do recommend going a darker purple. You could probably do a light purple as well, but the darker purple might show up better on this really bright pink. And she has a little bit of blue here. It's a lighter blue, again, stands out. And then she has a little bit of white here. And of course, the striped paper has some white too. So again, white is great with these bright colors. And it might be nice to add in something a little more darker as well. So I think this layout really, her color choice is really good here. Perfect for her daughter, getting her first haircut. And we have two colors on the cooler side of things, so it doesn't feel too overwhelming on this bright pink. Yet she has this fun focal point here with a lot of bright colors. And it does, again, it doesn't feel too overwhelming. I think because there's the white paper and the photo on top to tone it down. All right, this page is definitely bright. This is a pool layout. This is my sister from a bazillion years ago. But here I used a complementary color scheme. So this is a very bright pink, and its complement is lime green. And here I have these scalloped corners. And because I felt like the white was too bland, so I added in the corners. Then I have this palm tree embellishment. And something interesting on here that I don't do all the time, but it worked for this layout, is I have this bright pink pattern paper to match some of my photos. And it has this really interesting texture. It has this white pattern on it. And so it's a little bit different because usually I don't put a mat of the same color over the paper. But in this case, what it adds is this interesting texture, and I feel like it works even though the pink is a little hidden. But you can still see there's a mat there because of the fun white pattern. And again, you'll see I have this white cardstock in here because otherwise it's going to feel too much, especially with the complementary color scheme. The reason why the green works so well is because the green is more of an accent. So you can see on here, it's mostly pink, and then there's these kind of bigger white mats, and the green really is just an accent. So with complementary colors, I would say make sure one of the colors is more of an accent so it doesn't overwhelm your layout. All right, the next color is called Between Toes. And if you're wondering why it's called Between Toes, so Tammy decides on the color names of the collection and the individual colors. And she was thinking about how when you walk on grass, it gets between your toes. So that's the inspiration for the name. And as you can see, it's a green color. Sorry, there's a little bit of glue on there. And it's the same thing pretty much as the pink. There's this kind of lighter section here, and then it's a little bit brighter and darker around the edges, and there's that distressing as well. So let's take a look at how we use Between Toes. So I think Between Toes is awesome for boy pages. So we have the girly one, Bikini's kind of feminine. I think this one's awesome for boys. And here is a layout with Legoland photos. The dies on here are our 2 corner cutout dies and our L corner dies, and they work wonderfully together. But of course, Legoland was a great color scheme for Between Toes. So the summer collection is really great for amusement parks, especially if you have kids in your photographs. So many of you probably go to the amusement park with your kid or your grandkids, whoever. So summer is great for any pages with kids. And this layout is fun because each space here has a different color. So there's this lighter blue, red, yellow, and a darker blue. And of course it matches this Lego paper here. So you can have lots of fun with that. And again, you can choose the color scheme based on the theme park you went to. So of course, these colors are based on kind of the colors you associate with Lego. And of course, perfect for a little boy at a theme park. All right, this one is very bright. These are our X Factor dies. And really, I chose these bright colors because of this, I'm not even sure what to call it. It's just this decoration at a theme park. And so the colors were based on what was shown in the photo. So I have this really bright blue over the green, which overall gives it a cool color scheme. And then I have this yellow, and I actually chalk inked the yellow with a little bit of orange. Hopefully you can see that. The yellow was a bit bright and over the top on its own. And so I brought in the orange partially because if you look at these petals, there's a little bit of orange in there. So it matched the flower and it toned down the yellow a lot. And really it was actually a great choice in the sense of it went along with this big flower decoration here. And what's really fun is I filled in all the little corners with different parts of this decoration. So instead of pattern paper, I chose to fill in the little die cuts with photos here. So this is a really fun one. So if you have a bright object in your photos like I do here, summer collection can be great for that. And then you can use the colors from that item onto your layout. All right, here's another fun one. This is a St. Patrick's Day page. So summer can work with certain holidays. And the story behind this, so this is photos of my siblings and I, and each of us are 7 years apart. So that's why it says Lucky 7. And so of course I have this fun and bright St. Patrick's Day pattern paper. Again, I have some white here, and you may have noticed the photos are black and white. So with collections like Summer and Ombre, which I believe I've shown in a different flip through video, I love using black and white photos because if everything feels like a lot, or like I did here, I have 4 different, I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. I have 4 different pattern papers going on here, and it can feel overwhelming. But the black and white photos really tones the page down, and the black and white is actually a very nice contrast. So if you're someone trying to figure out how to use your bright colors, I recommend looking at your black and white photos because they look awesome on bright pages. So yeah, that's one tip I have for you, is to get out your black and white photos or print your photos in black and white. It obviously is going to work the best with portraits. Not every photo looks good in black and white. But that is one tip that will give you an amazing looking layout. All right, this layout is a soccer page, which I love. Summer collection is awesome for sports pages because it's really fun. You look at these colors and it makes you think action because they're so bold. So these are great for sports pages. Obviously, this one is supposed to represent a big soccer ball, and this is the Horizon Die collection. Here I have this bright blue cardstock, and then here the outer edges of this are actually made from the back of our Board Shorts grid paper, which is part of the summer collection. So that's something you can do if you're trying to pick a different color, is use the back of one of the other colors in the same grid paper collection. So automatically it coordinates really well on the between toes grid paper. And to tie it into the soccer theme, I took a soccer ball stamp and stamped it all over the paper. So this isn't a pattern paper, it's actually made with a stamp. So this is a really fun one. Again, sports are perfect for the summer grid paper colors. All right, up next is our Always Afloat grid paper. And when I say Always Afloat, that is the name of the grid paper. It is called Always Afloat because it reminds us of water. Again, it's the same as the pink and the green, where it's a little bit lighter in the center and then darker around the edges. And this is our most popular color of this collection because the rest of the colors are pretty bright and this one's a bit more toned down. So I think a lot of people feel like they can work with this one more than the others. So, of course, Always Afloat works well with any water pages. This is obviously a layout of whitewater rafting. So I really think summer collection can work well with your adventurous photos. So if you or some of your family like to do things like rafting, maybe they like doing something like doing rock climbing, or maybe they like mountain biking or skateboarding, any of those adventurous things are going to work really well with the summer collection because it's bright and fun and adventurous, right? So this layout was made by Tammy. Again, you see the white here to tone everything down. She has the orange, which is great for the focal point because it's a complement to blue. And then she has green in some of these other sections. So green is obviously great with blue because it's next to each other on the color wheel. And then you have this nice complementary color here. And it totally fits with the theme here. You can see this kind of graffiti looking changing rooms thing here. So it kind of shows this like fun, adventurous attitude on this layout because of the bright colors. All right, here is a year in review layout. And I made this one. I do like using bright colors for my year in review pages. And again, blue is kind of, out of all of this collection, it's kind of a neutral. So year in review layouts to me can go on any grid paper color. To me, it's just what you enjoy and what you like. And I like this blue and it worked. And so I have this fun, I think it's cork. Yeah. So I have this pattern paper that looks like cork. And then there's little letters that show which month that photo was taken and has all 12 months. So that's why it's a year in review. But blue is a nice, like I said, neutral color. If you're doing a year in review layout, year in review photos can really work on anything because they're pretty random. And of course, you want to choose a color scheme here. It's really fun. Every single month has a different color. And then I have the cork paper, which is kind of a neutral. It's just this brown. And then I made the year 2018 stand out a lot more. So it's a pretty basic layout. It looks really nice on this blue. So this layout shows the strips dies. This is the 1x4 size. This is a really nice layout. These photos were taken at a river. It was just a nice, easy, breezy day, you can say. And Always Afloat is great for something like that. As you can see, Always Afloat isn't quite as bold and maybe not quite as crazy as the other colors. So it's great for those little simple, gentle memories. I even have orange, although this orange is not super bright. It is a bit grayed or toned down. So if you grab an orange and it's way too much, you can always use an orange that's a bit more toned down. And again, you see that white here and around all of these other parts as well. Altogether, even though summer collection is associated with being bright, you can see this layout is very toned down and shows a nice little day here on the beach at the river. All right, maybe you want to do the opposite and you want your blue background to show a fun and crazy color scheme. So for this layout, it uses these steps, dies, and this page is a bit busier, but I think it's still fun. So these photos were this really bright flowers. So really, because blue, Always Afloat is a very calming, cool color, it can be great for using your bright photos on. As you can see, if I took that part out, it doesn't look too busy on here. And there's all these 1-inch photos. These were all printed about 1 by 1 inch. So that's how I got them to be so tiny. And then I have this bright yellow. I wanted a separation between these photos and these photos. So I felt like I needed something like the yellow paper, which is still very bright. I chose yellow because it fit with the yellow that's shown in the photographs. So again, Always Afloat, because it's not as bright and bold, can be great for these bright and bold photos or for these busier pages. Whereas the other colors that, I think the same layout on the other colors would be way more overwhelming. But I think this works. Like I said, it's a little bit crazy, but it's really fun to look at what's going on in all these different photos. All right, the last three here are gonna show our grid paper that has multiple colors in it. So this is our Sunbrella Grid Paper. So Sunbrella starts at the bottom as orange and then works its way up to become pink, and then it ends up in a purple. So this is a really fun one, and it still has some of the distressing around the paper as well. All right, so for this layout, I used photos from the Hot Air Balloon Festival in New Mexico. This background was chosen because a lot of these hot air balloons have multiple colors on them, so I thought it was fitting. And because there are a lot of colors going on in the photographs, I decided to go with white cardstock because otherwise it might have felt a bit more overwhelming. I also could have done a dark purple possibly, but I probably would have at least kept the focal photo with the white cardstock. But this is a really fun one. So if you're going to an event like a hot air balloon festival or something else where there's a lot of colors, Sunbrella or something in the summer collection can be a great choice for those photos. I would just say have a simple cardstock, and you can see everything was kept the same color. So if you feel like the bright colors are just too much on top of the summer grid paper collection, I would choose something like white or even black, or just one color that isn't too bright to tone your photos down. All right, this is a fun one. I absolutely think Sunbrella goes really well with Epcot. So Epcot does have a color scheme in some areas of the park similar to this. That's why I chose Sunbrella, because it was so fitting for Epcot. So these photos are not matted and they stand out on this Sunbrella. Epcot does have a lot of things that are just white or more of a gray, and that stands out on Sunbrella. So if you're going somewhere fun like Disney World or another theme park or anywhere fun, and color-wise there isn't that much going on and maybe everything is a very similar color scheme, putting on something like Sunbrella can make those photos stand out a lot. And one fun thing I want to show is this background is made with two different die cuts that are 2x4. So there's a bright pink and a bright orange. So that is a fun thing you can do to break up your backgrounds. I wouldn't probably do it necessarily to every single design spot on your page, but it can be fun for the focal point. Something I want to say about the summer collection is it definitely adds personality to your pages. And this was a fun little donut place in Portland. It's called Voodoo Donut. It's a very interesting, the theme of this place is very unique. So if you're going to some place that's got a unique personality, a really, let's say, weird restaurant or something unique, Sunbrella can be fun for that. So on here, I used a dark purple for all the mats to simplify things. Sometimes with these multicolored grid papers, it's nice to keep everything else simple or else it might be overwhelming. So these dies are Canterbury dies, but I want to point out what I did here that was fun. So I have the purple background, but then there's this pink cardstock for the edges, and I have the orange. So it matches the grid paper. So oftentimes, if you're struggling with choosing colors, I really like the grid papers with different colors in them because you can just use the colors in the background as your inspiration for everything else. So obviously I have the purple mats, and then all the colors in here were based on the background. I do have these gold round stickers because there was this wall here that was gold. So the outside of the building actually inspired that choice, and gold is this nice yellow, which is a complement to the purple. So I think it looks good, but again, Sunbrella is great if you want your page to have a unique personality, and it's just really bright and fun for photos like these. So summer collection, I think, is really fun for photos taken in the city. I was kind of inspired by this Philly sign right here because there's different colors going on. But I think it gives these city pages personality, because when you go to the city, there are a lot of things there with a unique personality, kind of like Portland. But again, this is Philadelphia, and which is kind of funny because it's a more historic city. But because of the sign and some of these other modern things in here, I decided to go with Sunbrella, because sometimes, like if it was just Independence Hall and the photos were all that, I probably wouldn't choose something like Sunbrella. But this is a fun layout. These are our stamp dies, and I put these little hearts in here because it's the city of brotherly love. So really nice one. Again, I just showed purple. Dark purple is really good with Sunbrella, so if you get Sunbrella, make sure you have some dark purple around because it doesn't feel too overwhelming. And then I chose a pattern paper that's got multiple purple hues in it, and then I had a coordinating pattern paper that kind of looks like houses in a city or something like that. That went along with the city theme here. So again, summer collection, really great for traveling and especially going to a city where they may have some unique features. All right, up next, this grid paper color is called Board Shorts. So it has a lot of green, it's mostly green, and then there's a stripe of yellow, and at the top there is blue. So this is a really fun one. I think this could actually be a fun one for sports pages. Definitely can see it working for a lot of boy pages too. So it's a fun masculine one. It's the same rafting trip, but I have another rafting page here. This is a really fun one. Here I have the film strip dies and the wave border. And on this one, I used different blues. So I have a darker blue and then I have a lighter blue, which this is actually the back of the Always Afloat paper that I showed earlier. So this is what I like about the multicolored papers, is that your color choices are simpler to me. Like I feel like I pick the colors faster because I'm like, oh, there's blue in here, I just will add blue. Maybe you could add yellow, maybe you could just add a darker green. To me, it just makes it easier because especially since that grid paper is a little bit busier, you want the other color choices to be more simple, to not overwhelm your page. And of course, the photos in here of the rafting trip were great with board shorts. All right, I have another Epcot layout. These are our Together dies. And this one I wanted to talk about color choices again. So I have the board shorts, and then I went with a navy cardstock because it's a nice dark blue that's kind of neutral and works with the board shorts. And what I did was, you can see I added this purple. I have a little bit of this purple pattern paper, and I used purple chalk ink on this white. I used the chalk ink because the white seemed kind of boring and too much. So if you feel that way about your cardstock choices, I recommend adding chalk ink. That's when I use it most of the time. Sometimes I just want the distressed look on purpose because it fits the photos. But sometimes I add it in because I feel like whatever I have on here is a bit too bland. But the reason why I chose purple is because if you look at board shorts, it's yellow, green, and blue, which are next to each other in the color wheel. So I decided to keep that going by adding the purple because purple is next to blue. So that is why I added the purple, because it still fits with the analogous color scheme. And I found this pattern paper that has a little bit of teal in it. There isn't much teal going on, but teal is in between blue and green, so it still continues that color scheme. So if you're trying to look for paper choices, think about the analogous color scheme. Look at what's on here and then just continue it. And maybe I could have gone orange because it's next to yellow, but orange might have felt a bit too much. But purple is still a nice, cool color. So that's what I wanted to talk about here, to just continue that color scheme. All right, board shorts is, again, great for any action pages. So here it's kids going on these unique climbing walls. So a really, really fun layout. This is from our chevron die. But you can see in the photos, there's a lot of bright colors. So again, summer collection works great for these photographs where you have a lot of bright colors going on. Board shorts was also a great choice because it is kind of more on the cooler side of the color wheel. And these photos show some reds and yellows And so I think the blue and green kind of calms that down a little bit. So again, a great one. Altogether, this page feels this page has a lot of harmony going on. I feel like the background really fits with the photos. So bright color situations, this was at a sports center, but you may go to a children's museum or something like that where they may have a lot of bright colors going on too. So again, summer collection, great for if you have bright stuff in your photographs, but also great for kids. All right, this is the last page with board shorts. This is another city layout. This one is Chicago. And for this one, I just chose navy paper. It's a nice neutral, and again, it just fits with the color scheme because it's just the blue. And this layout was actually really, really simple. I only have cardstock in a few spots, and the rest of the photos were not placed on any paper mats. I just put them on here. And honestly, I really like putting the photos directly on the grid paper sometimes because I don't feel like it needs the mat. It's the color, and I like how the colors show through, and I feel like that's enough. I don't think you have to mat every single photograph. You might look at your page and decide you need that, but I sometimes will just see if it looks fine without matting first, and then if I feel like it needs the matting, add it afterwards. But this is a fun layout, lots of photos going on. Again, board shorts and the summer collection in general is great for adding personality to your pages, especially something like a city, which again, cities have a lot of unique things, and so it's very fitting. All right, this is the final color. This one is called Heatwave, and when you look at this layout, it definitely looks like a heat wave, doesn't it? So Heatwave has this kind of a lighter orange, then turns into a yellow, and then turns into this darker orange with a little bit more of a red in it than down here. So really bright. I mean, you look at it and you feel like you're gonna burn just touching it. So let's see what we did with Heatwave. So Heatwave, I think, is awesome for any zoo pages. This was taken in Animal Kingdom at Disney World, but so maybe you go to a theme park with animals, that could work as well. But any zoo pages, these colors kind of remind me of something like the Serengeti, Africa. It reminds me of color schemes you see when I see decorations from that part of the world. And I have this pattern paper here. I really like it because there's actually a lot of brown, but still has these bright colors, and that was really fitting on Heatwave. And as you can see, there's actually a lot of brown in here. If you're going to use brown, make sure it's contrasting on this. Something like a really dark cocoa brown could look good, but I could see a light brown getting lost in these colors. But brown really works very well, especially if you're going a more zoo route. It's very fitting. And I have a little bit of green in here, which works perfectly on Heatwave as well. So this is a really cute page. Again, very fitting for a zoo or animal layouts. So this is a really nice one for something like that. All right, this layout shows a kayaking trip. Again, it's kind of, kayaking is more adventurous. And for this layout, I actually used the back of our Impressionism collection. This one is called Starry Night. And I'm a little hesitant. You can use a solid blue, but I like how there's some variation. There's a little bit darker blue, lighter blue. There's even the green and the yellow in there. I felt like it looked less overwhelming than just putting a solid blue, because this bright orange and bright yellow, they are really bright. So if you use a solid blue, it's going to stand out a ton because it's a complement of orange. But this page has a lot of blue going on in the photographs. Like there's the blue sky, and then that sky was reflected in the water. And some of the kayaks are blue as well. So a lot of blue is really going on. So that's a nice complement to the orange, but also cools down your backgrounds. So you may want to consider photos that are not overly bright. The previous layout, you notice they're kind of outdoorsy photos as well, and there's not a lot of crazy colors going on like in the board short or always afloat pages. Again, just keep in mind Heatwave has a lot of bright going on, so you may actually want to use the opposite with this paper and use photos that are a bit more toned down, like with a lot of blues or greens in them. All right, I actually made this layout for this video. It just came to my mind that this color can work great for Halloween, and I love it. First of all, Heatwave reminds me of the same colors as candy corn. There's that yellow and orange. And you put some black on here, and the black really tones it down. I don't feel like this page is busy at all. And it made it so easy. I mean, this is one of my Halloween papers. Pretty much, I would say most of the Halloween papers I had could have worked on Heatwave. So if you have some Halloween papers, I would say get Heatwave if you have some Halloween pages to make. Because Halloween colors are generally black, white, you know, they're candy corn colors with some black. But there were some other colors, like some blues were in some of my Halloween colors, and they would have worked as well. I loved Heatwave for it because it just made it so quick and easy. It has multiple colors. You add some black, you get one pattern paper from your Halloween stash, and you're done. I mean, I love it because it was so I love this partially because it was so simple. It was so quick to put together. And Heatwave made it more interesting, right? Like I could have had this on a solid orange or a solid yellow or something like that. But I really love the variation. And it makes the layout more interesting, especially when you're using just black or white cardstock here. So if I didn't go black, maybe you could go white and match the candy corn here. I wanted black to tone everything down to make it feel more Halloween-like, but white cardstock for the mats could have worked as well. And plus I wanted the black to contrast my chosen pattern paper here. As you can see, has a lighter background. So for quick Halloween pages, Heatwave was awesome for that. And here is the last layout. This is a fun water park page. So Tammy made this when I could tell she was inspired by the sign. You can tell there's this kind of teal blue and the orange letters. And so I really like her pattern paper choice for this one. So again, Heatwave is very bright. So important to choose something a little more cooler. And so she has this teal and it looks really good. It doesn't feel overwhelming. I do like how it has that distressed look, so there's some variation in the pattern paper so it doesn't feel too boring. And then she has the white, which again, you can never go wrong with white when you're using summer collection. And she even has some journaling spots here. Altogether, this is a fun layout. Again, perfect for the water park. She used the sign as inspiration, and I think teal and aquas look really good on Heatwave, especially for these summer water pages. So definitely try that out. All right, we are finished. Let me know in the comments below which of these colors was your favorite. So again, we have Bikini, which is the bright pink, Between Toes, which is the bright green, Always Afloat, and we have Sunbrella, which is a really fun one, Board Shorts, and Heatwave. All of these were fantastic. All of these pages were really fun. And even though it's called Summer Collection, you can use more than just your summer photographs. Really, the idea here is to make your pages bright and fun and give them personality. And I think summer does that. It makes it really quick. And I feel like they make your other color choices quick as well. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. You were inspired. Let me know if you were. Let me know if you're going to try the summer collection. I would love to know because I think they are really fun. And I hope you guys give it a chance if you haven't already. All right, I'll see you next time.